Hi everyone, thank you very much for joining. Today's topic is On the Air with ODA, Patching Oracle Database Appliance High Availability System Step-by-Step Demo. I would like to hand over to Slade for an introduction, and the other colleagues will continue the presentation as well as the demo. Thank you all once again, and enjoy the session.
Thanks, Simone. I really appreciate it. Hi, my name is Slade Weaver I'm part of the Oracle Outbound product management team. And I'm thrilled to introduce Carlos Ortiz and Paul Cien from the Oracle Technical Product Management team. Today we'll be discussing the Oracle Database Appliance, and it's designed to be, the Database Appliance is designed to be simple, optimized, affordable, and secure. And what we want to show you today is and explore how easy it is to patch the ODA HA system. So please stay tuned to discover how it can transform your database management. And by the way, feel free to ask any questions via the Q&A tab at the bottom. We'll be monitoring those, and we will, if anything needs to be answered live, we'll save it for the end of the discussion. So I'm going to turn this over to Paul now. Paul, the session is all yours.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Slade. Hi, everyone. So today we are going to kind of cover a very key topic, for those of you who work with customers or partners. It's really important to understand kind of how to patch an Oracle Database Appliance HA system. So we're going to do a step-by-step demo. But first, I'm going to just spend, 5 to 10 minutes sort of the overview of the Database Appliance for those of you who are fairly new to the Database Appliance platform. So again, like Slade said, that it's really based on a few principles, right? We want this product line to be, simple to deploy, simple to maintain, and that's what we're going to focus on in the rest of the presentation, is how easy it is to patch the HA system. We could do it in less than 2 hours. And then, of course, we're from the database group, so this platform is designed to run database well. And we have, a lot of integrations and special features that's only available on this platform. And the third value proposition is really about being very affordable, very low entry cost. We have capacity on demand licensing. So the overall total cost of ownership is very low on this platform versus all its competitors. And of course, this database appliance is designed to be an enterprise product. So it's end-to-end secure out of the box. So that's another key value proposition for this product. Next slide, please, Carlos. This is just a quick overview. This product line has been around for about a decade now. So every 12 to 16 months, we come up with a new version that gives you more CPU, memory, storage. What that translates into is a much better performance for about the same price. So as you can see, we're keep adding value on the hardware side for our customers. Next slide. But that's really half the equation on the hardware side. What I think it's really important is we release a new software every 3 months to fix all the bugs and securities. But at the same time, we always introduce new features to enhance this platform. So it's what I call continuous innovation and improvements and adding value for our customers. So over the years, we have added some key features such as integrated virtualization support, rapid database cloning technology, built-in HA features that are not available on any other platform. So we are constantly adding value to this platform as well for our customers that runs on Database Appliance. Next slide. So this is just a quick overview of the current Oracle Database Appliance X10 model family. So as you can see, we have 3 models: a small, large, and highly available model, HA model. That's basically a cluster in a box. There are 2 physical servers attached to share storage directly. So it's actually a very powerful system with up to 128 cores, 3 terabytes of memory, and up to 368 terabytes of SSDs raw, and almost 800 terabytes of HDD if you choose the high capacity version. So this is our current product line. Next slide, please. Now, the new thing you probably hear a lot about is the Oracle database version 23 AI. That's the latest Oracle database. And what's important that it's the next long-term support for the Oracle database. So just like the 19C database, the 23 AI database is designed for the long-term support. That means it will be supported for approximately 10 years. So most of our customers from 19C will migrate directly to this database. And what's new, the main feature of this database is the built-in AI capabilities. That's why we call it, Oracle Database 23 AI. So there's a lot of AI features built into the database itself. So I'm not going to get into all that details, such as AI vector search, but they have a lot of collateral papers and on our website, and so again, most of our customers will move to this database. So now on the database appliance side, on the Oracle Database Appliance X10, now if you want to run Oracle Database 23 AI, you could run it on the cloud today. But if you want to run it on the Enterprise Edition on the on-prem, on a system, there are only two platforms that's fully supported today. One is the Database Appliance. The other one is Exadata, the Oracle Engineered Systems. So currently, the Enterprise Edition Oracle Database 23 AI is not available other than the Oracle Engineered Systems. So that may change in the future, but at this point, that if you want to run Enterprise Edition Oracle Database 23 AI on-prem, these are the two choices. In addition to that, if you want to run Oracle Database 23 AI Standard Edition, or SE2, that is exclusively available only on the Database Appliance, especially on the AMD chip, which is what we consider MCM chip. So we had made an exception just for this platform to be able to support Standard Edition database on Oracle Database Appliance. So that's also a very important message. So that really gives you the lowest cost platform to run Oracle Database 23 AI, a Standard Edition 23 AI on Database Appliance, because it is the lowest cost Oracle Engineered System. Okay, next slide. So again, the key things to remember, Oracle Database is the #1 database in the world with all the innovations that have been done over the years. And so these are just some highlights of the features that's simply not available on other databases, right? Such as the AI vector search built into the database with our 23 AI database, converged database. Over the years, we have many features that just kind of, world-class features, and nobody else has it, right? Now, on the right-hand side, it's really all the innovations we've done over the years. And again, most of these features are not available on any other systems, such as, we made it so simple that we can deploy a RAC database in less than 2 hours, right? 90 minutes. Database templates, that's out of the box, to optimize database performance. Hybrid column compressions, that's available only on Database Appliance and Exadata and ZFS, Oracle Engineered Systems. So these features, again, integrated data guard and integrated backup to the cloud. So again, all these features are only available on the Database Appliance and capacity on demand licensing. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so that was a quick overview of the Oracle Database Appliance platform. So I want to get into sort of the key of the presentation today is about patching Oracle Database Appliance HA system. So next slide, please. So the way we designed the patching for Oracle Database Appliance is really about kind of the simple patch for the whole entire stack, from operating system all the way down to the firmware in the system. And we actually pre-test all the patch for this platform and to make it extremely simple and also, very available. For example, if you want to patch the firmware on the disk drive, we do it in a rolling fashion. So the benefits for the customer is really about, eliminating any compatibility issues, right? If you build your own, if you patch an operating system, they break the database or break something else. Whereas this is all, the integrated patching has been tested by the Oracle QA group, so that it's really that peace of mind for customers. And then again, we made it build this. The whole patching process is very simple, and the bottom really shows you the process. There are fundamentally 5 basic steps, and that's what we'll go through in our demo. And you can break that up into 3 sections. One is preparation, right? You download the bundle patch that's all pre-tested. You update the software repository, basically copy to ODA so we know where the files are to create the databases. Then the second part is really about patching the infrastructure, which includes the operating system, the GI, which is the clusterware and ASM, and the BIOS and things like that. And then as part of the infrastructure patching, we also patch the storage firmware on the disk drives, the host bus adapter firmware, things like that. And the last part is about patching the databases, right? So the actual patching part that you could be done in one command, and we're going to show you. Next slide, please. So these are just some best practices I listed here just for references. We're not going to go into all the details, but fundamentally, it's really about being prepared to do the patching, right? For the customer that really have good patching experiences, they do all kinds of preparation before the actual patching itself. So here are just some recommended things, something obvious, right? Just read the known issues in the documentation or release notes, do pre-checks, right? That's kind of the key thing, is that you want to be prepared to patch, you want to fix anything that can go wrong first. And of course, as a good IT person, you always want to have backups and tests on a test system first, test patching on a test system first. These are just kind of some general recommendation that we do to all our customers. Next slide, please. So in this step-by-step demo, what Colors is going to go through is these processes, right? So we're going to show you, how to patch the bare metal infrastructure, and we follow the documentation step by step, and we're going to show you how long it takes to do all these steps. And so the first thing you do is you patch the bare metal infrastructure. Then you patch the bare metal database, right? You have an option, right? Some of our customer runs just bare metal, then that's it. You do the infrastructure, you do the database, then you're done. And then some of customers are running virtualized, database in a VM, what we call DB systems. Then you still have to patch the infrastructure in the bare metal. Then you just patch your DB system, which is just a virtual machine. Then you have to log into that virtual machines and patch its infrastructure and the database that's in the VM. And we're going to show you that and how long it takes to do that. So as you can see, even though there are multiple steps, but for each of these boxes, there's only one patching step, which is on the left-hand side, update server, and that's it. Update storage, that's it. And then update the database, right? So these are all one commands to do these things, but we do a lot of preparation, to get the system ready to be patched. And again, we follow exactly what we documented in the documentation, but we're going to just show you all the commands and to show you how quickly we can do all these things. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to pass it on to you, Carlos, so you can show them how this is all done.
Yeah, let me so let me start with this first slide. Well, this same slide that Paul was just talking about, and look at the details on the first box, right? The patching the ODA bare metal infrastructure. And you see that first item, download the server patch, GI, and database clones. A nice thing with the Oracle Database Appliance is that we prepare and test these clones that we provide for the GI, the database, and the server. The server includes all the firmware that is required for the hardware, right? If you need to patch a HBA, the disk drives, the disk shelf, any network connectivity, all of that is integrated in there. So customers don't need to worry about that part. And notice how we put in here for the time that it varies, right? The download the server patch and GI, because these are like 5 GB files. So you can do this ahead of time, a week before you're gonna be patching. So that's why we don't include that time as part of the patching. And then if you look at the next step, right, it's gonna be update the repository server patch. We take that clone and update it, and then we update the DCS admin components and agent, and we tell you already how long it took, right? 165 minutes. Then we're gonna update the repository with the GI and database clones, and then we run the pre-check, right? The pre-check is something that you can also run a couple of days ago just to make sure that you're not gonna encounter any issues and you have some time to fix any potential issues. And then you update the server, you run the pre-check for the storage, and you update the storage components, right? So we're gonna do that, and all these steps are detailed in the user guide. Here you can see on section 8, patching the Oracle Database Appliance, and here are the step number ones. It says you gotta, step number one, right? You gotta download the file, unzip the software, copy all the software, to the Oracle Database Appliance. So well, I'm going to show you how we do it, right? But those are the steps. And by the way, in the guide, like all this, you get the commands that you can just copy, right? And you may need to put it in some editor just grab the portion that you need, right? It's to do that. But here we have an NFS mount share where we just put in all the images. So yours is going to vary depending on how you do it, right? So you run it, it's going to give you this prompt with a job ID at the top and that ID, and then, right, you just describe that job ID and it tells you success. Obviously, we expedited this to just show you in a couple of minutes, but we're going to show you all the time that it took, right? But that uploaded the file, the server, to the repository. Now, when you look here, right, you can see number 5 is what we just confirmed that is successful. And then it tells us, right, to update the DCS admin, DCS components, and the DCS agent on step 8. So we're going to do that. And step 9 is going to be update the repository with the GI clone and the database for 23 clone, right? So let's do that. And here is the first step, right? We update, you can see here, right? Update DCS admin and to version 1923. And again, all this part right here, you can just click on the HTML guide, right? Copy the command and you just paste it into here. So we run it, we get the job ID, we confirm that it's successful. And you see there, right, it's a status success. So that was the DCS admin. Then we do the same thing for the DCS components. And once you get the prompt that is successful, that's it, right? For this task, you don't need to describe the job ID. So then we go to the DCS agent. And again, you can see the format, right, for the command there. You get the ID, describe the job ID, and you see again that is successful. So after that, right, on step 9, now we just need to take those GI and database clone files that you already downloaded, and we need to upload them or update the repository, right? And again, here's the command for, you can see here, the database here at the end, right? That's the database clone. And you can immediately start, right, the GI clone as I did here. It'll just be waiting until the database clone is finished updating. And instead of describing the task, I just wanted to show you that you can also just list the jobs that are pending. And here at the bottom, you can see that the first repository update for the database file, the clone, is completed, successful. And it was running the GI. So you just verify in this way also that it's successful before you move on, which we did. And now, once this is updated, we need to go into the server update. But first, we need to run this, the pre-check. In the command, it's called a pre-patch report. -s is the server, and we want 1923. So we run it. You get the ID, describe the pre-patch report, confirm that is successful, right? It's make sure that nothing, well, that you don't need to do anything. But here's the successful part. And once that is done, then we need to, on step 12, right? We need to update that server. Notice there is an option to run a local. That means it's going to update one server at a time, so the system can continue providing or servicing the clients. In this one, we chose to just run it without the local option, but keep that in mind if you need to do that. Okay, and here, right, is what we say, update server to version 1923. So we get the ID, we describe the ID, and these are all the tasks that were done, right? It's at the end, it's gonna reboot it. So if you want to maintain one node servicing, right, you can just do one node at a time. So here's successful, and once that is done, then we go for the storage components. Okay, sometimes on this one is just gonna take a few seconds because there is nothing to update. However, when there are firmware updates that we need to do, then it'll take some time, such as in this case, when we patch to 1923. So again, here, right, you gotta run the pre-check for the storage, and you get the ID here. That one is to describe the pre-patch report, or you can just describe the ID as well to just confirm that is done. In this case, I just described the ID and confirm that it was successful. Okay, and then here we're just doing the actual storage update. Right, describe the job ID, and it was done, and it just took a few minutes. So, okay, so here you can do describe component, and this screen will just show you what components are up to date and which are the ones that still are not updated. And here you can see here that all the components are already up to date with the 1923 and the firmware that it applied. And the only ones that are not are these components right here, which are the databases, and that's the next step, right? They are 1920, 21, and 1922, and it says available version is the 1923. Okay, so we'll do that next. But so let's stop right here and just take a look at the time that it took, right? It's for patching the ODA bare metal infrastructure. It was 64 minutes for this configuration that we have. Here at the top, you can see there is an HA system, and we have 6 SSDs. Obviously, this time is going to vary depending on your configuration. Always pad more time. Notice that in the recommendations that Paul mentioned, there was one that says, well, download and use the ODA BR. And that one we're not using here. So that will let you preserve the state of the operating system in case that you want to restore. So there are certain things. So the planning part, it's important as to how you're going to do it. And as Paul mentioned, on the right-hand side, if you're running bare metal, you can just run this part here, and we'll talk, right? Because you got a couple of options here. With the Oracle Database Appliance, if you have one database home and you have, say, 5 databases in that home, all you need to do, if you want, is patch that database home, and the databases, all 5 are going to be patched at the same time. Here, we wanted to show you one option. We did it in a little bit different, right? We're going to do a pre-check for the database home because this creates the 1923 database home. Then we run a pre-check for the database DB1 in this case, and then we're going to update the database. We had the option to just run the pre-check for the database home and then update the database home. It would have saved time, but we just wanted to show you that if for some reason in the past some customer wanted us to enable the capability to update only one database, and you can do that today, and that's what we're going to show you here. Okay, so that's in this next steps. So here's in the user guide, step 19, you can see here, right, to patch all databases in a specified database home. And and step 20 is to patch a specific database to a specific database home. So you need to choose, right, which way you're going to do it. So first we list the databases, and we're going to list the database homes. And here you can see for database 1, this is a 1922. That's the one that we want to patch. And if you browse through these homes, we don't have a 1923 home. So what we do first is we create a pre-check, right? This pre-patch report for the database home. And we're doing it for this 1920T. You can see here the ending of the ID 5B26, which is this one. And we want to patch it to 1923. Okay. So what it does, well, let's complete this. Here, the pre-patch, make sure that it was successful, right? And this process, this process of doing the pre-patch report for the database home creates the 1923. Just make sure everything is successful. And now we're going to list the databases and the DB homes. And now you can see here, right? This was created 1923 as part of the pre-patch report. And you can still see here that our database is 1922. Right, so next, because we want to do this database, now you gotta run a pre-check for this database ID. You can see here ABC5, right, which is this one right here. So we're gonna run a pre-patch for that database. We make sure that it's successful, right? And then we can do the actual updating, right? Patching the database. So that's the command. You just grab the ID, and this is to the database home 1923. Right? So then describe it is successful, it's done. So now let's take a look at the list databases and DB home. You can see here that the database has been patched to 1923 right here. And we have our database home 1923 there. And if we look at the time that it took, right, the pre-check for the database homes took 27 minutes, pre-check for the database 17, and the actual patching of the database 11 minutes, 55 minutes. So again, right, we chose the long route here, but you can do it just the database homes. So in the next section, if you have what we call a DB system, which is your KVM for the Oracle database, right, then we're going to show you that, right, how to update it. Notice here, right, that because there is an infrastructure running on that virtual machine, we got to do this update, this ES admin components and agent, and we got to run the pre-check for the server, update the server, And then we just update the database home. And notice here, we're just running a pre-check for the database home and then patching the database home, which is what we chose not to do here, right? But we're going to show you that part. Okay. So if we list the DB systems, right? DB system is your KVM for the database. You can see here that we have one only. And then you can just describe the DB system, and we're just going to take a quick look, right? It gives you your database information, the networks. This is something that obviously you set up before, right? When you set up your DB system, that's the IP address for this test system that we're going to connect to. You get the networks, the VMs, and just all the information for your DB system. Now you go to this section, right? Patching Oracle Database DB systems in the user guide. And in step 1, it just tells us, hey, make sure that we have, that we are prepared, that we have all the patches available. So we run list DB patches. And here it tells us to run it in the bare metal system. And then we're going to connect to the DB system and then update the DCS admin components and agent, right? So here, right, I'm on the first tab. So I'm on the bare metal system, and we just confirm that, yes, we have all available versions, right, for 1923. Now here, notice that I switched to this tab right here, and this is the IP address for the test system running the DB system. So we connect to it. And once we're connected, then we can do update the DCS admin. I'm just gonna let it run through the first 3, but it's what you saw before, right? Update DCS admins, update the DCS components. Once that is done, right, then we go to the agent, update the agent, right? Confirm the same thing, that everything is successful. And then we're done. The next thing is just running the pre-check for the server and then updating the server, right? So I'll let that run, but those are the 2 things that we're gonna do. And update the server. So here is the pre-check for the server, -s. So describe the report, make sure that it was successful, as you can see there, and then update the server, right? So same steps that we saw before. In this case, notice that the VM was disconnected. We log in again. And we just describe the job ID, make sure that it was successful. And now we have updated, right, the server. And then the next step is going to be patching the database. And here are the instructions, right? Patching the Oracle database home. And so that's what we're going to do. First, we need to run the pre-check. Well, and let me just list here, right? The databases and the DB homes. So you can just see, right? That's the database in the DB system at 1922 that we want to patch to 1923. Notice we don't have a 1923 home. Again, we just run the pre-patch for that DB home. You can see here, right? Pre-patch the report. This is the DB home ID for the 1922, and we're gonna patch it to 1923. You notice that the 1922 home remains. We don't overwrite it. We just create a new one for 1923. Right? So describe the pre-patch report, and it was successful. Make sure that you don't have any issues. And after this, right, we are now updating the DB home, putting the ID, and it's going to be to 1923. to verify that it's successful, as you can see there. And now let's list the databases. And DB Home, that's the 1923 database is updated. And here we have our DB Home 1923, right? And I mean, this is this was the last step, and you can see here at the bottom, if you have a DB system, I mean, it took about 93 minutes. Again, things will vary for your specific configuration. And you can see here the time that it took for this task. And again, right, it depends. Many customers are running bare metal, so you're not going to get to this part, or vice versa. So that was the end of the demo. We can go to Q&A or Paul, anything. If you want to add anything else, go ahead.
Yeah, we should continue the slides
Oh,
after
that's
this.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is another question that just came up. From Kenton? Can a home ID be reused?
Can a home ID be reused? I mean, there's no need, right? If you notice, we had a 1920, 1921, and 1922 home. Then when we wanted to create a 1923, the other ones remain. It's up to you if you want to keep using them or just delete them and update everything to your latest 1923. But yeah.
Yeah, the home ID is system generated. So if you create a same 19C version of the database, it will always have a new ID. It says, so I'm not sure what he meant, but the ID, is generated by the system. We just use it, and you can have, two 1922 database on two different homes, or they can share homes, right? So that's pretty standard. It's really up to the customer to create a database on that database home. So if you want to create a new database on the same database home, then yes, you can reuse the ID. You can share the database home, basically. That's yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
Carlos, why don't you go down a couple of slides, because I do have some. Oh yeah. So here are some links. I know someone asked about this link. I just want to make sure this is recorded on the video, and so you know where to find the blogs, the YouTube videos, the documentation. Someone was asking about that link. And I also have a couple the appendix. I want to also show them. Can you go down to those two before we go back to Q&A? So I know the formats, it's a little, I think it's a Windows and the Mac compatibility problem. But anyway, so here are some tips on how to, conserve space, right? If you run into space issues, these are some of the tips on, how to purge the logs you don't need anymore. So there's some MOS nodes. I just want to make sure people see that. And the ODA BR that we talked about earlier, there's a MOS node on how to use that. So again, just for cleanup. Now, we have automated a lot of these in the 1925 release, so you don't have to worry about it. But in case your customer's running earlier version, then there's some tips on how to manage the space. Next slide. So there's some, again, kind of recommended things. If you do customization, because it's an appliance. So if you install things that's protected by the ODA, then you need to back out of it when you do patching. So here's just some tips here. Okay, we can go back to Q&A. You can scroll up to the Q&A now. So I just want to make sure that those two get recorded. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Team, any questions? I don't see a Q&A tab. I don't see questions, but I want to emphasize on something that Paul mentioned right at the beginning, which is planning, right? Take a look at the release notes. That's important. Identify any known issues. Go through all the steps. Just plan every step. Run the pre-checks couple of days or before, right? Just make sure that you're not gonna find like that you need space, and then you gotta go to that appendix that Paul just mentioned, right? To go ahead and delete some space or delete, yeah, make some space available. And so that planning is important, so the patching can go smoothly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So there's a Q&A about non-database VMs. So yes, we do allow customers to put application in the VMs, and we didn't really address this in this presentation because this primarily was focused on how we can patch the infrastructure and the bare metal in less than 2 hours. And then we also show that can you scroll up one slide? So we can patch the DB system in about hour and a half. Keep in mind the DB system is per DB system, right? Because it's like a virtual machine. So you do have, for each DB system, you have to patch the infrastructure and the database inside of it. Now, if you create a non-database VM, KVMs with applications in there, then we treat that as a black box. So the customer actually maintains that. So they will have to log into their application VM and do whatever the patching inside, because we don't know what's in there, right? It could be a Windows application, it could be a Linux application, but it's up to the customers to maintain the non-database VMs. But for the database VMs, we do all the automation and simplification. But again, this number, 93 minutes, is per VM. Now, you could do them in parallel, right? You don't have to wait until the one VM is done to do the other one, but just to keep that in mind, because each VM, it's like a system itself, right? Whereas the infrastructure and the bare metal, that's the physical bare metal system, which we could do in less than 2 hours in our case. Yeah. Is the ODA, here's another question, ODA command is installed to the OS? Yes, when we ship the database appliance, the Oracle Linux, it's installed, and all the ODA CLI, the DCS infrastructure, it's on the bare metal already. So there's yeah, so you don't have to do any further installation. And okay.
yeah, as soon as you log in, you have access to all that the DCS infrastructure, all the other CLI commands refer to the user guide. You're gonna see how rich that is, everything that you can do.
Yeah. And again, just keep in mind what we went through, what Carlos went through, the step-by-step, that's in our official Oracle ODA documentation. That's you can just go look it up, and we just follow the steps. So we want to make sure what's in the documentation is accurate, and that's why we did the demo based on that. And as you can see, right, and we also calculated how long it took for each of the steps. So again, preparation is good. The more customers are prepared, and then resolve any issue, the pre-checks. So what we want to do is making sure when you actually hit that update server command, everything's ready, or update the storage, or update the database, because the pre-check actually identify a lot of the issues. For example, if you don't have enough space, the pre-check is going to tell you, there's not enough space, so you need to go free up some space, things like that. Or if you have some RPM incompatibility, we will catch that as well.
Even, I mean, if you look at this step right here, right, it's the pre-check for the server. That's what it may tell you, but also updating the repository with the GI and DB clones. These are the ones that are like 4, 5, 6 gigabyte files, and you may need some additional space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another trick that we do is in order to save space, what we do is we NFS mount all the clone files and server patches. So you don't have to physically copy all those files to your ODA, and then you have to go in and clean up afterwards. So if possible, just tell your customer to NFS mount those files, and then that's what we do, and it works well. And that's also in the appendix of the recommendation for the storage management, space management. Yeah.
From the questions that you already, well, any other questions, team? Or Paul, from the question that you already answered, or Slade, is there any question that you want to highlight? Because not everyone sees the Q&A.
Yeah, there were questions about the how do you do like rolling patching? You know, we have this thing called dash local. So that lets you control, you can patch one server at a time. So that I think you mentioned a little bit, right? We didn't use the local option in our demo here, but if you do a say a patching server with a dash local option, then it will try to uh, you know, patch the just that server and reboot the server with all the updated information, but leave the other server alone. So that's continuous running. So if you have workload, it doesn't interrupt that. And then you do the second node. If you don't specify the local, what it does, it automatically update the server on one node, and then automatically does and restart that node and start doing the other node. So you will have some interruptions. So if you absolutely want to control the downtime, potential downtime, then use that dash local option. Yeah.
You know, Carlos, I'd like to highlight a question that Mahesh asked again, if we could kind of double
Sure,
click
go
on
ahead.
it. Do we pre-check to make sure customers' ODA is not modified? Some modifications can cause patching failure. Can we just kind of talk a little bit more in depth on those pre-checks and at a high level how they work?
Sure, yeah. What we have is, when we ship Oracle Database Appliance, we only ship a fraction of the RPMs, the Linux RPMs, less than a third. And those RPMs are used by the database appliance. So, and we have this thing called version lock. There's a list of RPMs that's in the version lock file. And if you try to install things that overrides that, it won't let you. It will say, this RPM is protected by the ODA, therefore, uh, do not override it. And now, if you install agents, or install applications that do not impact the ODA RPMs, then there's no issue. So you can manually override it still, but that potentially you can cause issues for the next patching. So what you want to do is make sure you're able to back out of that so that, again, it complies to our version lock. And our pre-check does check that to make sure that, it's the environment's what we expected. So that's kind of how it works. So that again, and it's also from security perspective, it's much better to have a smaller number of RPM, so you have less exposure to all the potential CVEs, vulnerabilities. So that's kind of how we manage, any potential issues with patching, is that we protect the RPMs that we use. Okay.
Okay, perfect. There's another question from Federico. Are there any special instructions or possible issues identified when a customer needs to migrate from 1921 to newer versions? 1921, it's already on Linux 8, and going from 1921 to 1922 or 1923 or even 1924 is going to be similar to what we went through today. If it was 1920 or earlier to 1921 or later, you will be going from Linux 7 to Linux 8. And yeah, that one is a little bit more complex. There is special steps that we need to do. And Paul, I think we recorded that one, right? It's available on
Yes, yes.
video.
Yeah, that's on
Yeah,
the
go to the
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're interested, go to the YouTube link that we show you in the resources and take a look at doing that patching that went from a Linux 7 to Linux 8. But to your question, here is similar to what you saw today.
Yeah. Yeah, from 1921, then it's actually very simple. Just exactly like what we did here. You can jump on. We recommend to always stay within the 4 releases, right? Today it's 1924, it's the latest. So you can basically go from 1921 to 1924 directly. Yes. Let's see, KVM can install their own Linux RPM, correct? Yes. So I assume Hash is talking about application KVMs. So then, of course, they can install, Red Hat, SUSE and or even Microsoft Windows in the application.
Windows, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Well,
I believe you've just answered the last posted question. I don't see any open one. I would like to suggest one more time to subscribe to our YouTube channel if not already. We will post there soon the slides presented today as well as the recording. Thank you all very much for joining and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.